Hello Booktube and welcome to my bookshelves. So today I'm going to do my April wrap-up, all the books I read in April. I finished one series, murder mystery series, and I started another and a few standalones as well. So the first book I read in April was the third book in the Amory Ames series, and that is A Most Novel Revenge by Ashley Weaver. So this was published in 2016, but they are sort of classic Golden Age style mysteries. This is the third in the series, and this has all the classic elements that you would expect in a Golden Age Agatha Christie style book. This is set in a remote country house, and Amory, the sort of socialite detective, amateur detective, and her husband Milo have been invited to a dinner party weekend at this country house. Now, there is history in this house in which a few years back a guest died and somebody else was blamed for the crime and committed suicide, but apparently new evidence has come to light, and so there's sort of an atmosphere and tension. All the original guests are back for this dinner party. Needless to say, another death occurs during this weekend, and Amory and her mysterious husband Milo is on hand to investigate. So this is another. I've enjoyed the first two books. This is the third in the series. You probably do have to read them in order because of the relationship between Amory and Milo. So this is a classic whodunit, very atmospheric, very well written, lots of twists and turns. It's one of the rare ones I've actually guessed who the murderer was. I didn't guess the motive, but I guessed who the murderer was. A very enjoyable murder mystery. And the second book I read in April was My Blind Date with a Book. Now, my wife kindly bought me a subscription service, which is called Blind Date with a Book. And you sign up for 6 months, I think. And once a month they'll send you a mysterious book. It comes in brown paper and wrapped up, so you don't know what you're getting. So my first blind date was with Jim Thompson and The Killer Inside Me, a chilling first-person thriller. So this was first published in 1952 and is set in Texas, America. And it is a first-person story of a small-town cop who is also a psychopath. And you join the story as he starts coming up with a plan to kill someone. And then once he's done that, his paranoia and his descent into madness and more deaths occur. But it's all told first person, and it's well written. The characters are good, but it is very, very cold because it is written by a madman, basically. So it's very. So although he describes the murders, they're very cold and clinical, and you can't really connect with what's going on as a reader. Will I have a second date with Jim Thompson? Probably not. So I shall wait for my next blind date and see what that brings. And so for something completely different, after The Killer Inside Me, I decided on another Ashley Weaver, but this was a short story. I think it was only published in e-format. It's called Intrigue in Capri. It's only 50 pages, so it's only a small novella. And it's sort of it's set between the third and the fourth book. And in that one, Amory and her husband Milo are on holiday on the island of Capri, and a mysterious woman turns up at their hotel. Amory, obviously her curiosity gets the better of her, and she starts digging around to see what this mysterious stranger who she is, what she's doing there. So it's a quick read, it's only 50 pages and a nice little escape before you can go into the fourth book, and at the time of recording the final book of the series, and that is The Essence of Malice by Ashley Weaver. This is in hardback. I think the paperback of this is published this summer. I think it's June or July. You'll get the paperback of this. This is the hardback, and that is The Essence of Malice. And this carries on from the sort of end of the third book in the short story, so they're still on holiday. And Milo, who is becoming more mysterious in every book, there's something not right with Milo. But we haven't quite figured what that is yet. Anyway, he gets a message from his ex-nanny, who lives in Paris, and she asks them to come visit because there's something not right with the household where she is nannying. So they go off to Paris, and she is nannying for a rich family who are big in the world of perfumes. They have a massive perfume brand, but something is not quite right. And when the rich husband of the family dies, seemingly of natural causes, the nanny's suspicions mean that she calls in Amory and Milo to subtly ask questions, and then they sort of dig deep into the family history and work out what is going on with the perfume business. And the detail that Ashley Weaver goes into this, she's obviously researched the perfume business because it's full of detail. You can almost smell the perfume coming off the pages of this book. It is so detailed in the writing, and you feel like you're in 1930s Paris in the jazz clubs, and this is at the moment the last published Amory Ames. I'm sure there'll be more to come in the future, but this is the last one at the moment. So yeah, so I have now finished the Ashley Weaver books. So I finished one series, so I thought I better start another series. These are very, very different to the Ashley Weaver stories. These are first published in 1970, and there was a TV series made of them. I haven't seen or heard of the TV series before reading the books, but there was a TV series in the UK, and they are from Peter Lovesey, and they are the Sergeant Cribb adventures. And I think there's seven or eight books in the series, all published in the 70s. And this one is called Wobble to Death. They are Victorian murder mysteries, so set in 1870s. And they're small books, only less than 200 pages, very quick reads. But this was amazing. The detail that Peter Lovesey manages to get in those few pages is amazing. So set in Victorian London. This is probably one of the most unique settings for a mystery that I've come across. So in Victorian London there was a sport called pedestrianism. And it's like the long distance marathons that you get nowadays, but this was set over 6 days, and competitors walk or run or jog around a track, around like a mile track. And at the end of the 6 days, whoever has done the most miles wins. But they can do 100 miles in a day. And they just walk and walk 24 hours. They will walk and walk, take an hour off for lunch, and then walk and walk. And then at 2 a.m. they'll do another couple of hours, do another 20 miles. I'd never heard of this before, but this was an actual sport in Victorian London called pedestrianism. And it was huge. You get thousands of people turn up to watch people walking around a track. Needless to say, one of the competitors dies, and Sergeant Cribb is called in during the race, and he has to investigate and interview people, the trainers, the managers, the other competitors, and he has basically until the end of the race, so 6 days, to work out how this first one died, and who caused it. But the mystery is sort of secondary to the setting of the book. It's so detailed, and you get real detailed how these athletes train, the injuries to their feet, the diets and the training that goes into it, and it's absolutely fascinating. You sort of read it and you really are drawn into this Victorian world of pedestrianism. So if you can find it, they're out of print. I find these in charity shops, and if you can find one, Wobble to Death by Peter Lovesey. Really, really recommend that one. And the second one of that series is called The Detective War Silk Drawers, and this is the second in the series. And this one, again, is in the world of sport, but this is bare knuckle fighting, which had become illegal in Victorian London because of the viciousness and the damage that it caused. But there is underground fight still of bare knuckle fighting. Now, at the start of the book, a headless corpse is washed up on the banks of the Thames, and they work out that he was a bare knuckle fighter by the state of his hands and his physique. And so they sort of go undercover into the bare knuckle fighting groups to work out who the man was and how he ended up in the Thames without a head. But again, the detail of the bare knuckle fighting, as the same with the first book with the pedestrianism, you get whole chapters of the fights, and it is really brutal. And you get details like the fact that the boxers, they pickled their hands. When they were training, they would sit for hours with their hands in bowls of vinegar to toughen up the skin and make their hands really, really tight, and so when they're boxing, obviously their hands wouldn't bleed. So yeah, absolutely fascinating writing. Peter Lovesey's written a few books in other series. There's another modern detective series that he's written. This is the Victorian one, and really, really impressed with the detail that he gets out of 170 pages. But the detail he puts into it, and the plot and the story, really, really impressed. So that was The Detective War Silk Drawers by Peter Lovesey, the Sergeant Cribb adventures. So I'll be carrying on with this series in the coming months. And a complete change of track now. This is one of my books from my Bath book spa. This was one that was recommended to me, and that is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. Now, this was sold to me in the bookstore. It is set in a mysterious bookshop in San Francisco, I believe, and it is a 24-hour bookshop. But the clientele are mysterious, and there's some strange books at the back of the shop. It sounded interesting. I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. And I really, really enjoyed it. So this book starts off with a young man who was big in the technology industry. He created websites and advertising for companies, but was made redundant, so he's looking for work. Comes across this bookshop and applies for it. He's given the night shift, so he works nights, and he comes across some strange people who come in to borrow books from the top shelves, as it is described, not the backlist, but the way backlist. But these books aren't all they seem. They all seem to be written in some strange code. And then a couple of weeks later, a month later, they'll bring those books back and borrow another one. Obviously, his curiosity gets the better of him, and he starts to investigate. And then it goes into secret cults and magic potions and sort of magical realism, but with a twist. But this book is great because it explores the love of books, of the written word and old publishing with modern technology. So you have sections like they are taking one of these old books, and they are taking it to Google. He has a friend who works in Google, and they are using the modern technology to scan that book into a digital form so it can be read online, basically. And it explores, yeah, the relationship between the reader and the book, basically. Are old books better than ebooks? And also explores sort of how far can technology go? Can technology outwit a human brain? And it explores the limitations of both worlds. And it's a fun read. So I definitely recommend that. It's Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. So that was my April wrap-up. Have you read any of those books? What did you read in April? Let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you all again in my next video. Thank you for watching.